There's one practice that I want to leave with you today, and this is my favorite thing that I get to talk about. We call it in my research lighthousing. Now, what lighthousing is when we take our knowledge, we take our theories and our protocol, and we braid them with our own stories to create a lifeline to be able to hold on to, especially when we're in difficult seasons. Now, just as a wee digression, the reason I love a good lighthouse is my family immigrated to Canada from Scotland. They did a transatlantic voyage, they made their way to a new country, and in that moment they felt so much fear coming into the uncertainty of a new experience. They were so overwhelmed until they saw the lighthouse in Prince Edward Island. When they saw that lighthouse on that shoreline, they knew that they would be okay. And that's what I want for each and every one of you, a gentle invitation to find your guidepost. What is it that you can focus on that you know no matter what, I will be able to find a way through? And the one I want to leave with you today is one that's quite simple but very powerful, is the belief that you can do hard things. You are able to weather difficult times and experiences. And where I learned that idea that I can do hard things actually came from my mom. And I'll tell you with a pretty radical candor, when I was little, and she used to tell me, "Robyne, you can do hard things," I had no idea what she meant. But when I was a teenager, "I can do hard things" ended up saving my life. And again, I'll tell you with some pretty radical candor, when I was a teenager, I was in a very dark season. By 16, I'd already dropped out of high school. I was a terrible student. I remember an educator once saying to me that they wished that there was like a level below basic or locally developed that they could put me in, because they said, "You'll never amount to anything, you're wasting all the teachers' time, and you are not smart enough to ever be successful." And I internalized that message. So by the time I got to 16, high school was hard, I tapped out, I said, this isn't for me. And at the same time, my mental health started to erode. And this is the one thing that I know to be absolutely true. The people who need the most help, we ask for it in all of the wrong ways. The people who need the most help, they ask for it in the wrong ways. And how I was asking for help took the form of addictions, took the form of my mental health started to erode. It took the form of just being in a very dark place. And my parents loved me hard but helplessly. They had no idea how to get their girl back on track. And I remember being institutionalized at 16 for my own safety. And after that season, my mother came in and she said, "You need to get your belongings because you're moving. We are moving." I'm like, "Why are we moving?" And she said something that was so remarkable. "You need a fresh start, and you need a second chance, and you're not going to get that living here." My family left their jobs, they left their house, they moved to a smaller community, and the only goal was to get their girl better again. And I'll tell you, when your family shows up for you like that, you show up for them. I got sober, I got clean, and I even got ready to re-enroll in school. Like, this was a good season for my family. And at the same time, I also happened to get my learner's permit. I had my driver's license for 1 week, and I was driving home in this new community, and a snowstorm rolled in. And I didn't know how to drive well in the snow. My vehicle ended up sliding off the road. It went down an embankment, and my vehicle crashed through the ice, and my vehicle sank in the Otonabee River with me trapped inside. Within seconds, this frigid cold water comes rushing through the floorboards, and I am drowning, trapped in this vehicle. I was just 16, alone. And in that moment, I noticed I was not afraid. I felt angry. And I was angry that I could not protect my mother from what was going to happen. I didn't care if I died, but I cared about what that would do to her, because I knew how much I mattered to her. And in that moment, when I was thinking about my mom, it was like this emotional echo. It was just a feeling where my mother would have been the first one to say, "Robyne can do hard things." So I leaned into that belief. I tried to get the seatbelt off. I couldn't get the seatbelt off because the impact had already locked that device. I was able to wiggle out the seatbelt, and I couldn't open the car door because the water pressure started to crush the vehicle. And I'll tell you, the sound of metal crushing underwater with you being trapped inside, it's a horrible sound. It's a horrible feeling. But with the vehicle crushing, it allowed me to take my fingertips, dig them into where the window met the door. I was able to pull out the window enough off its track to slide it down the door, and I was able to swim out the window. I got to the other side, no idea which way was up or down. They estimated the vehicle was like 20 feet underwater. And in that moment, the only strategy I could think of was to simply exhale. Let go of the breath that I was holding because I knew my bubbles would rise in the water and show me the way to the surface. And I remember swimming as hard as I could after those little bubbles. And there was even a moment where I thought, I might make it. And then all of a sudden, smash, something hit my face so hard. And it was this thick sheet of ice over the river. And in that moment, it was just a scramble. I was able to get to the middle of the channel where the ice was a wee bit thinner. I was able to break free, but all I could do was hold the edge. And every time I tried to pull myself up, the ice would break and I'd fall back in. I was wearing winter boots, jeans, winter coat, and I just tried to keep pulling myself up, and I couldn't do it. But that night, there was a gentleman by the name of Joseph. His name was Joseph Todd. He was just a random guy in his 30s driving home from shift work. And Joseph just happened to see my car tracks in the snow. And he just happened to drive all along the side of that river to see he could see anyone. He sees me out there on the ice. He pulls over his pickup truck. He grabbed wood and a chain from the back of his pickup truck. Joseph used that wood to make an X, or a cross, used it to support his body weight, and he crawled out onto that ice. He slid out the chain. He wrapped it around my body, and Joseph dragged me to shore. He was awarded the Governor General Rose of Bravery, which is the highest accommodation for a civilian awarded in Canada for somebody who is willing to risk their life to save a stranger. Thank you. Thank you. A wee while later, that night, I woke up in the hospital, and my mother was there. And she leaned in and she asked me, she's like, Robbie, how did you do it? They're so curious how you were able to get out of that situation. And I said to my mother, it's very much because you told me I could do hard things. And my mother leaned in very close and said, that's not really what we ever had in mind when we used to tell you that. But we're glad it worked in your favor. Me too. Now, the reason I share that story with you, it's very much the origin story as to why I study human resiliency and performance. I believe in the human condition. I also know that we are not defined by the most difficult seasons or our biggest mistakes. They become part of our story, but they are not the whole story. Whenever I do this work, as I said, I do give recognition and thanks to Joseph Todd, because again, no act of bravery should be forgotten. So in the work that each and every one of you do, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. I still remember presenting to a group of kids because I think it's so important that we talk to children about people who have like non-linear trajectories to success, which means that school doesn't really work for us. And I remember telling this to a group of children, and I got halfway through my car accident story, and this little boy jumped up and said, yeah, lady, but did you die? I was like, no, little legend, but I will remember you as long as I live. The work that you do matters. You will never know the impact of the work that you do, but you are part of people's stories, and you also have a story. And my gentle invitation is to recognize there will be difficult hours. There's going to be hard seasons, but you're very well equipped to do the hard work. And when we come together in communities like this, and we give people what I love to call generous assumptions that people are doing the best they can with the tools and the gifts and the talents that they have, we can come together and we can do some very, very great things.